this is officially the start of season 2. So, just in case you missed anything, you can find all of the prior podcasts on all available podcast networks. And if not, during our next episode, I will graciously do a recap of everything that was discussed. But for many of you all who are new to me, to the Second Wind podcast, my name is Kerry, and better known in some places as K Square, KG, and going to give you a little bit of information about me and how we're going to get this thing kicked off. This is a podcast about a variety of topics from child welfare to mental health to common sense that spans all facets of life from athletics, which I am very big into, to just your daily living. So, what I wanted to do with Second Wind Podcast was create a network, a website that allows the discussion of life in general. And many of you all know the term second wind, which stands for, in athletics, it's a common term. Hey, I just got my second wind, and now I'm ready to continue the fight. So, in terms of the Second Wind podcast, that can be an analogy used in mental health, child welfare, if you've been a victim of ACEs, which we'll discuss, athletics, or many other topics that we have to go through in life. What's important is that there's an understanding that I'm coming from a place not only professionally, but personally, and that we've all been through some things in our lives. And it's not a discussion or a series of discussions to put anybody down or come from a alleged loftier position due to the fact that I am in mental health as a therapist. But it's also trying to give everyone a different viewpoint on some things regarding how we as people can get our second win and go on about life and live life to the fullest and the happiest that we can possibly be without the bullshit, the drama, the negativity, the back and forth, the game playing. When we feel sad, what can we do? When we feel anxious, what can we do? And from other perspectives of maybe those who have gone through traumatic events in their lives. So, what second wind is a theory of being able to get up off the mat, put the gloves back on, and punch the shit out of life, which is hard for many of us to do sometimes. During these series of podcasts, I'm going to be relaxed as hell. And as a therapist, I'm not coming to you in some kind of mushy manner. Oh, little Timmy, tell me how you feel. I'm going to keep that shit real. Some people don't like that approach. Some people want to be coddled. And no, I'm going to keep it real because that's what life is about. And as a therapist, we have to be honest with people. We have to keep it real. We have to talk the way we talk. I'm not going to transform into someone differently because I'm in a therapeutic state, because that's bullshit. And that's not real. Life is hard out here in these streets, as many of you all know. So why would I be any different? Which is not realistic. So, a little bit about myself, and I'll skip a lot of the early nonsense. Graduate of North Carolina State University, go Pack, with a degree in political science and criminal justice, minor in history, and a bachelor's in social work from North Carolina State University as well, and received a master's in social work from the University of the School I Shall Not Name, which is the Blue School not too far from North Carolina State in Raleigh. Pretty top notch social work program, but uh, it goes a little bit deeper than that for me, which I'll get into at some point. I was able to continue and further my education at the Institute of Political Leadership in North Carolina, which is a year long program, as well as continue my studies abroad in Spain, Salamanca, Universidad de Salamanca, with about 5 courses and trying to finish a doctorate in social work as we speak. I've had the great opportunity to work in a variety of settings surrounding social work since 2001. I started off working in a group home for adolescents and teens, which then prompted me to get a social work degree and begin working as a child welfare, child abuse, neglect investigator. And during that time, in that span, I had the opportunity to work in case management or treatment. I had the opportunity to provide therapy services as an intern to children and adolescents and teens that were in the child welfare system in North Carolina. And working at the Department of Social Services taught me a shit ton about how the system is failing our youth and families. You heard me say that shit. How the system is failing youth and families. But I learned a lot about the system. I learned a lot about how to work with families, how to be compassionate, and that everyone doesn't have the same opportunities. And some need a helping hand. But I also learned the seedy shit of how children are abused, by whom and how and why. So fast forwarding, I took that knowledge and those opportunities and worked as a clinical instructor at the Jordan Institute for Families, Children and Resources program at the University of the School I Will Not Name. It's a great opportunity. I also learned a lot about adults in that setting, which was very upsetting, but kind of a kick in the pants to reality. But during that time, I had the opportunity to be a part of a so called team and teach social workers across the state of North Carolina, from Asheville in the mountains down to Charlotte, down east, as we say, in Kinston, Greensboro, variety of places. And I taught courses such as the effects of separation and loss, child development, taught courses to social work supervisors and judges, help write those manuals. I taught how to investigate sexual abuse. I taught about child mental health. So I had the opportunity to not only be a part of writing trainings, doing the research, but also teaching it, which was very a very awakening experience and something that I'm passionate about. But again, it also told me a lot about the individuals that I was teaching, in the sense that some of the people who work in our system of child welfare are only there to get a paycheck, are not theoretically social workers. And you can see that in some of the work in all of the counties in the state of North Carolina, which again, I'll get into at some point later. Beyond that, I had the opportunity and kind of parlayed that into being the Child Welfare Collaborative Director at North Carolina State University, in which I taught social workers, recruited social workers for the child welfare program, advised bachelor's degree and master's degree social workers, and taught social work courses. I was able to be a guest speaker in many other classes, and I was able and called upon to speak at many organizations about child welfare and the Child Welfare Collaborative Program. All of that led me to being a mental health therapist. When I look around the room, there aren't many therapists that look like me. And often I get what I'm about to say to you next. I wish there were more like you. Well, what do you mean, more like me? Black male therapist. We're a dime a dozen. We're unicorns, as some people might say. So I have been trying and using this platform to advocate for mental health therapy, not only for the masses, but for minorities as well. Because in the minority community, therapy is not really looked upon as something that people should go to. Why do I need to go talk to a therapist? Well, it's interesting because people need to talk to somebody at some point about some things. And I believe that when people can open up and talk to someone who's going to be non judgmental, who's going to call out BS, who's going to try and provide solutions, who's going to actually listen and not interject their own thoughts and opinions. Well, you need to do this because that's it. That's BS, but different topic. then therapy is a place that we as people can grow. And I hear all the time growth mindset. Therapy is one of those things that can contribute to that. Therapy is not just for people with serious mental health issues. It's not. Therapy can be beneficial for anyone and everyone. I know therapists who have therapists, and it's beneficial. Another myth is therapy is, oh my God, it's so expensive. Why? Well, I mean, there's a thing called insurance that people can use. You can actually negotiate a rate with your therapist. If they don't take your insurance, well, why do I need to talk about my problems when all I'll do is think about those problems? Well, talking about your problems gets it off your proverbial chest, for one. And a therapist can be there to help think of solutions. Sometimes we all just want to be heard by a neutral party. Again, with no judgment. Well, how long does it take in therapy if I want to get some type of results? There's no timetable. I've heard often, well, I want to hurry up. I want to expedite this. There's no expedition in therapy. Results can come immediately or they could come years down the road. How much work do you want to put in as a client? Because it's about the work. And, well, I think a therapist might judge me. If you find a therapist that is being judgmental, fire them ASAP. That does not align with the code of ethics for a social worker, a clinical social worker. And if you're finding that a therapist is being judgmental, you don't need them in your life. I pride myself on not being judgmental. And I've had clients ranging from those with serious mental health issues, trauma, violence, depression, anxiety, all types of diagnosis, work in all types of fields. People do what people do to survive, to make a living. Who am I to say that's right or wrong? So, my part as a therapist is to be able to provide suggestions and potential solutions, not to tell you what you should or should not do, and not to tell you that what you may or may not be doing is wrong. Why would you do that? So, being a therapist, I am empathetic, but don't get it twisted. I served in the military for 10 years. I was a protection specialist for 20 plus years, almost 30 years. But I still believe in empathy. So, with that, some of the topics that will be covered during this season's podcast are child welfare issues, issues surrounding sports and child welfare. That's a pretty big one for me. I've been a coach as a hobby for the betterment of 18 to 20 years, depending on the sport, basketball or football, played football, high school, college, semi pro. And we have some donkeys out here who are pushing these kids and being verbally abusive, physically abusive from time to time, CPLA. And when some of you all who know me hear that, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, which I will cover at some point soon. But we've got to be better as a community of coaches who are actually teaching kids. And that spans into the child welfare piece, as well as the mental health piece. So, child welfare in sports, mental health in sports. I'll get into the child welfare system as a whole, which is a little bit different than just the actual child welfare piece, but the system as a whole. And again, as I've said, the system that is failing. I'll also talk about abuse and trauma and how people, we can rebound from that. It's a journey. I'll talk about ACEs, A-S, I'm sorry, ACES, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, which is a big topic and something that I will cover a lot. So listen to this. About 64% of United States adults reported experience at least one ACE between 2011 and 2020. Again, an ACE is an adverse childhood experience. Common types of ACEs are emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, household mental illness, parental separation, divorce, domestic violence, homelessness. Those are types of ACEs that happen to individuals under the age of 18. And the impact of ACEs can be enormous. ACEs can create poor life outcomes in children when they grow to be adults. They can create poor health conditions, substance abuse, drug abuse, substance abuse. So we're going to talk about ACEs quite a bit because I am very passionate about trying to advocate and figure out how we can get a handle on 64% of US adults experiencing more than one ACE, which contributes to poor life outcomes. We want PCEs, positive childhood experiences. And I will dive into that very deeply. Some of the other topics that we'll discuss will center on the mental health field, minorities in mental health receiving treatment or not. And from time to time, I will segue into other aspects of life that may be beneficial for people, such as mindfulness, which I thought was bullshit until I actually started practicing it. So, what I want to do is welcome you and everyone else, anyone else who wants to listen to a real therapist talk about real shit and not from a soft perspective. And when I say child welfare, we're going to talk about some of the cases that I've had in the past. And keep this in mind. I will never mention names of any of the cases, any of the individuals, anything. But the things that I do mention are 100% authentic and real and will provide a snapshot of life and the struggles we have as people. This here is just an introductory to the second season of the Second Wind podcast. I welcome you to visit my website, kerrygraves.com. Browse it. I welcome you to check out the things that I have put on paper, written. And I welcome you to keep an open mind in listening to a discussion about certain aspects of life that might make some people uncomfortable, but real conversations. Tune in next week for the second episode, second season of the Second Wind podcast. Share this with your friends, family, anyone who might be interested, needs something to listen to. And I'm going to take a second wind and get back with you all next week. Thank you.